Welcome back, I'm Brad.
I'm Steve.
What the hell is all this stuff?
You had to ask. So, a while ago.
After a year.
It's been a while, I know. So, a while ago, we showed a cooler that had beer pouring out of the side.
Yep.
All right? And I've used this cooler many a times for camping, birthday parties, whatever it may be. So, basically, today we want to show everything that goes into that cooler mod. And really, we're not going to show how to build it because it's fairly... I don't think you want to watch us drill a hole.
Yeah.
It's basically the only thing you have to do. But I wanted to go over all the components that are in it. So today, as you can see, you've got all the components laid out in front of us. There's really only 3/4 tools that you need. I suggest a crescent wrench. Number 2 is a lovely... basically, I don't even know what they call this, but it's to tighten the tap to the
tap nut. Yep.
Yeah. Then you need a 7/8, some sort of drill hole.
And 7/8 works perfectly. Do not go up to an inch. Use 7/8, twist it in there, and push it in there.
Yeah. You want it as tight as possible because you don't want any cool air leaking out. So you want it still to be cooler. And obviously the 4th tool that I'm not showing on here is some sort of drum.
Right.
Electric or, battery operated.
Yep.
Now, some of the major components you can see right here, we have basically I'm not even sure, 2.5, I think it's 2.5 pound CO2 tank. So you want something that's fairly short. There's ways around this if you don't want to spend the money. I know they make the handheld
guns.
Yep. You could do something like that. For me, I'm looking at 2.5 gallon kegs. So really, I've got 5 gallons of beer I'm trying to deliver over 3, 4, 5 days. I'd rather just dump ice and put this tank in.
Well, and this tank will fit in the cooler.
Yes.
We'll put the cooler, what model it is, on there, but this 2.5 gallon will fit in the cooler. So.
And that's one thing you have to really look at is, so I bought my kegs off of AIH, which is, homebrew.org.
Yep.
If you look, they've got $75, I think 2.5 gallon kegs. Perfect. Where I screwed up is I only bought 2. So when I do a 5 gallon batch, I either have to do 2 of the same, or I have to do half and bottle half. I really suggest getting 4 if you have the money. That is my next purchase. But back to the cooler. So you've got your CO2. You can probably find a local dealer that will swap out. Don't buy offline. Don't buy a new one offline. That's my mistake. I did. And then I went to my dealer and they said, well, we swap tanks. So basically, I had to give them a brand new tank for a slightly used one.
Right. There are places, I have to say, that will fill them.
Yeah.
We use a fire station.
Yes.
That does it, and they do fill it. So make sure you know what your facility does before you buy a brand new tank and have to switch it out. Yeah.
So somebody out there has my new tank. So next on top of that, you have to get a regulator of some sort, right? And for me, I've got 2 kegs, so I've got 2 shut-off valves, which you're going to need, and then I've also got obviously the connections for it. Now you'll notice that
gray. What's gray mean?
Gray is the gas, so gas in. What you'll notice is my lines are longer than they need to be. Gas lines, length doesn't matter.
Right.
For me, I actually use this tank to serve some other kegs outside of my cooler mod. So that's why I had longer hoses put on. If you're only going to use it for your cooler, I suggest shorter hoses than what I have. Now, shut-off valves, very important. You're going to need to have shut-off valves on these because when you hook a new one up and you've already got one on gas, you're going to want to shut the one that's already on gas off before you hook the new one up.
Back pressure?
You'll get back pressure. Okay. So beer will actually travel up the line because it's trying to balance itself.
Right. And make sure those shutoff valves have check valves in them. Because if it's just a valve, it's going to send it through all of it.
And that's why I shut mine off. If they have the check valve, you're okay. You don't have to. And that's where that manifold, I think, if we were to go any further. The next most important thing you're going to need is a shank that will go through the cooler. Now, I've got a fairly long one here that I didn't mean to get, but the reason I got it is it's all in one. So a lot of shanks, you'll actually have a separate piece for your tail end.
That has a nut on it.
Yep, that has a nut.
With a washer.
Yep, this is all in one. No benefit, really. I mean, it's just one piece, so I don't have to worry about it. Now, you can get something a lot shorter, obviously, to get through your cooler. Your cooler is probably only an inch and a half at the most. Right. So you're going to need a shank. Obviously, you're going to need a tap and a tap handle. Now, I really recommend the front ceiling taps.
Especially if you don't use them all the time.
Yes, you'll be able to tell because they'll have a longer snout. And Perlick is basically the company that we use to get our taps because it's front ceiling, meaning that the beer is always on the gasket. So it's just like a hose of some sort where there's beer on the actual washer itself, and once you open it, it starts to flow. The other ones, what happens is the beer is not on the gasket where the shutoff valve is, so your handle actually sticks. And I've had them before where
if you have like a Belgium that has sugar or something in there, you might need to hit it with a hammer to get it open.
Yeah. Or if you don't use it often.
Yep.
Your next one, obviously, you're going to need, I suggest, about 10 feet
per line
of hose. Only because 10 feet is a good balance for about 12 psi.
Okay.
So for me, I can pour a beer at a fairly good rate, and there's a lot of carbonation to it, but not a huge amount of head.
Foam.
Yep. It doesn't shoot out. So I think 10 feet is a good starting point. Now, you might find, it might be different for you if you balance it a little different.
Right. Especially if you don't have it at 12 psi.
Right.
So make sure, I would say go with the longest.
You can always go shorter.
Yeah. Yep.
And then obviously you're going to have to connect your corny keg somehow. And obviously if you homebrew,
what's black mean?
Line out,
beer
out. And then you're going to need a couple nuts to tighten that down with, and these are pretty cheap. You can find at a local hardware store.
Yep.
Now, where I differed a little bit is I actually have a drip tray. So I actually put screws in my cooler for a drip tray because, even the best faucets,
they're going to leak.
They drip a little bit even after you're done pouring a beer. So because I was at my father-in-law's brother's house, so my great uncle, I don't know what that is to me. I didn't want to leak anything on his floor or his garage, so definitely a drip tray is in that for me. But other than that,
and you can take it on and off though.
On and off.
So if you're outside, at a campground, you don't have to use it because it can just go on the ground.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. So you want to take this off when traveling. You also want to take this off of the shank when traveling as well. And what you want to do is, if you've already had beer connected to it, go ahead and disconnect the beer from the keg, open the faucet, let whatever's going to leak out.
Right, because you're going to have 10 feet of line that probably has beer in it.
Go ahead and take this off, and then you're good to go. You're good to travel. Cool. You don't want... You could shut the PSI off on it, but there's no real reason to, right? As long as you take
the black line off, nothing's going to get out.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
But make sure when you're installing all this, make sure you spray stuff down with water and soap so you can see if you have any air bubbles, because if you do, stuff needs to be tighter.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much how to make the cooler.
Right. A couple other tips I want to go over real quick is when you're connecting this beer line, you want to make sure and put the nuts on first, because if you don't and you connect this, you're going to go, oh no.
Right. And if you want the line to slip on the barbs a lot easier, make sure you put them in hot water.
Yes, put them in hot water for a while, like you would with the mouthpiece if you played football.
Yep.
But I also wanted to point out with this cooler mod, it's not in placement of a jockey box. And what a jockey box is basically coils that go through a cooler and come out of tap. So that you can put a 5-gallon keg on the outside of the cooler, put a bunch of ice on the inside of the cooler, and then run that line. I didn't want that because the setup was just too big, too bulky.
Well, and you can't just pick it up on wheels and
pick
go.
it up and go. Yep. Right? If I want to go to a Tigers game and just want to take that and have it in the back car, in the back seat of the car, there we go.
Yep.
And that was the reason for this mod.
Yep. Cool. So let us know if you guys have any comments. Did we miss something? Is there an easier way to do this? Leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Brad.
I'm Steve.
Happy brewing.
See you next time.